Pleasure is not accidental, especially in the spotlight.
Hello and welcome back. My name is Liza Chuma Akunyili if you're listening to me for the first time. And this is Pleasure, Power, and Platforms. Today I want to talk to you about boundaries. I know you've heard that word before, and I know you try to keep the word, but I want to bring it to you from a different perspective. A lot of times people tell us, oh, you need to set your boundary. You need to, and that is good. But the first thing I want to ask you is, what are you protecting? That's the first thing you want to set, right? If you're going to draw boundaries, what are your boundaries protecting? You say, oh, I cannot afford to lose my peace of mind. I am in the phase where I drink my water and mind my business. Well, if everybody drank their water and they all faced their business, we live in isolation. And if we live in isolation long enough, there is no amount of therapy that will fix our lives. And I'm saying it as a therapist. There is no amount of therapy, no amount of coaching resources, no amount of education, no amount of technology that will replace community. However, in order for community to work, people have to come beyond what we call our boundaries. People have to come into our safe spaces. People have to come into our personal space. You know how you speak in front of someone, but you don't go around the parameters of their body because you don't want to break into their personal space. If a child was to greet their parents, one of the ways you know that this person is connected to this person is that the child breaks into the personal space of the person. They hug the person's leg because obviously they can't reach their shoulder. When you see two friends, they hug themselves. If they are people who like to scream, they will start screaming at each other from down the road. If there are people who like to touch, they will touch themselves, even if they are quiet about it, even in public gatherings. People are breaking physical spaces and personal spaces every day. So I don't think the problem is that you don't have boundaries. The problem is that you have not clearly defined what you want to preserve with your boundaries. So let me help you with that. One of the things you need to protect is your sanity. I repeat myself. One of the things you need to protect is your sanity. I don't care how much your platform means to you, and I don't care how much you think is at stake. If it tampers with your sanity, it has the capacity to take your life away from you. I don't mean your life as you know it in terms of the luxury. I mean your life, the breath in your lungs. It has the capacity to take it from you. Whatever begins to tamper with your sanity and makes you begin to question, am I good enough? Do I deserve to live? Am I worthy? Am I okay? Am I even enough? Does anybody care about me? Whatever begins to make you question your value, whatever begins to make you question if you are sane, where something happens and you said this is what happens, but then you're retracing it. A lot of times we know this to be narcissism by someone else. So we say, oh, he's narcissistic or she's narcissistic. Sometimes it's us. And the reason it's us is that we're beginning to consume some other things. So someone says to you that they are leaving you relationship-wise because you're not good enough for them. And now you believe that you're not good enough for them. And you're beginning to say to yourself that you're not even good enough for you. And then you start to look at all the things in your life that did not work. See, what's beginning to happen is that your sense of value is beginning to depreciate to match the level of the other person. Like I said in the previous episode, it is your responsibility to defend yourself. When the person said it, one of the first things you could have done was externalize the comment. And how do you externalize the comment? Let's say a Kingsley says to you, Anita, that you are not good enough for them. What Anita needed to do in the situation is say, Kingsley said, I am not good enough for Kingsley. What does Anita want? Anita needs to be able to articulate that. That is a boundary. The ability to externalize what came from the outside is a boundary. Boundary is not, oh, I don't want people in my life. No, boundary is when someone is in your life and they make assumptions or assertions, you are able to say, oh, that is external. That didn't come from me. If you cannot externalize what came from the outside, you don't have boundaries, I'm sorry to say to you. It doesn't matter how good your English is. It doesn't matter how flamboyant you look when you dress. When the light is gone and you sit down in the silence of your house, you are going to hate yourself. Not because you hate yourself, but because other people said to you, you are not deserving of love. You should be hated. So you protect yourself by externalizing what comes from the outside. If you're able to do this, a lot of the social media comments you absorb will be taken and pushed backward. Number two thing you could do, or number two thing you should do, is that you should learn to listen to what people are saying. That's good boundaries. Boundaries is not, oh, nobody comes into my life. Boundaries is listening for what people are saying. So you come around someone. I know this one has happened to me a couple of times, and some people say it's because I'm a therapist. I like to banter back and forth when I'm in public. But sometimes I notice that we're having conversations and this person says, oh, this has happened to me and my life is bad. And then person B tries to say, oh, yours is not even as bad as mine is. And person C begins to say, oh, both of you, your life is a walk in the park. You should have seen what I went through. And then person D, if these people spend so much time talking about whose life is worse than whose, what makes you think that in that company, your life being better is not going to be an issue? So one of the ways you draw boundaries is by listening for how people articulate and narrate the stories of their life. A good person you want in your space should be able to have enough positives and enough of their negatives. If the person gives you only positives, it automatically means they sift their lives from you, because everybody has something that's not fully up to par. And this person also could be you, so watch yourself as well. But if everything they give you is negative about themselves, sorry, everything they are going to hear when you speak and everything they are going to take attendance of in the environment is going to be negative. So you draw boundaries by listening for how they talk about themselves, how they communicate about their experiences, and ultimately how they communicate to you. When this person begins to talk to you, they are not going to be kinder to you than they are to themselves. So if you're saying, oh, I need kind people, are they kind to themselves? If a person is not kind to themselves and they're kind to you, you should be weary, because they are running on fumes, they're running on empty. And at some point, they are going to break down. And there are two ways they are going to break down. They're either going to break down by being negative when something really bad happens, and they're not going to have the bandwidth that you need, because life tends to break every one of us at different times. They will not have the boundary and the rate at which they will collapse. Even you will collapse under the weight of trying to bear them up. The second way is that you're going to find out that they're not fully positive people, which means that what they are not saying in front of you, they're probably saying about you somewhere else. If you have people in your life who can't call you out on your crap, you don't have boundaries. Because if you have good boundaries and you're a person who is strong in opinion, then your friends will know that if you do something silly and they point it out, you're not going to say, oh, don't disrespect me. This is why I don't. No, they're going to know that the only reason that you will believe what they're saying is that you're a person who is principled and who has protocol. One of those times I had something that happened between me and someone else. Oh, I wanted something and I couldn't get it. And I was going on and on and on about it. And I remember my friend had tried to console me and we had had this conversation. And at some point in the conversation, she flared up and she said to me, and I quote, "You make a scratch look like a third-degree burn." She was so pissed that night. And it was one of the most fantastic things I'd ever seen anybody do. The next day I called her and she said, "I thought we were no longer going to be friends." I'm not foolish. You're one of the best things that ever happened to me in life. I know what it costs to have people like you in my inner circle. Boundaries mean that I know when a person is actually breaking my boundary versus when a person is helping me out. When a person calls you out on your crap, it doesn't mean they hate you. It doesn't mean they're disrespecting your space. It doesn't mean they're humiliating you. No. If nobody can correct you, you don't have boundaries. Sorry, you just have bad character. That's not boundaries. If nobody can talk to you and say what you're doing is wrong, you're not a person who drinks their water and minds their business. You're a person who does not have respect for themselves, who does not have respect for other people. And people know it. So they don't tell you, because if they tell you, they don't know what you're going to do, or the people in your life are not your companions. They're people who keep you around, like I said in episode 1, because you are convenient. So if you want boundaries, you need to define what you want to protect. So for me, here are the things I protect. I protect my mind. I protect my heart. Whatever makes me begin to hate, whatever makes me begin to step into anxiety, whatever makes me begin to question my values, whatever makes me start to doubt the things that I know that I truly want, whatever makes me diminish myself. I don't mean humble myself, I mean diminish. That makes me start to squeeze and tell myself that I'm too small. I draw boundaries around it. And here's a good way to draw boundaries. I'll give you an analogy and I want you to keep it in mind. Have gates, not walls. I give this to people when I'm doing date coaching. Walls mean I don't want anybody to come inside. And because you don't want anybody to come inside, even you can't go outside. And even you can't communicate with anybody. So you're stranded. They can't reach you. They can go on to other people. But you are lonely. You are isolated. You are by yourself. That's a wall. What you need is a gate. A gate can open and a gate can close. You can communicate with people through your gate. You can talk to people and not go outside. It doesn't matter the size of your gate. You can have an idea who's at the gate. You don't have an idea who's at the fence. You have to climb over the fence to see who's at the fence. But with the gate, you can see who's at the gate and you can talk to them and you can test them. And when I say test them, I don't mean be wicked. No, give them opportunity. Listen. Listen for how they talk. Listen to where their heart is at. Listen to how they engage with other people. Listen to how they carry themselves. Listen to how they protect themselves. Only when you have listened and you have communicated with these people, do you now let them into your personal space. This is the making of a good boundary. See you in the next episode. Bye.